is the first Bulls player, the easy on the pipeline from UB to the Bills. We've had it a few times. It's borne fruit, but I don't need to rush it. Murdoch is the first UB Bulls prospect to be at the Combine since when, Zach?
2021. This is even with guys like Sean Dolak being an All-American,
right.
Joe Andreessen, of course, too.
It was kind of a big deal that Dolak didn't get invited last year. I remember people being kind of bent about that.
A little bit.
So, all right, good job there. Let's bring Chris Trapasso in from Indianapolis. And I guess because we're there, we just heard from Murdoch. I just mentioned it's the first time in 5 years a UB product has been a part of the Combine. What sort of prospect is this Red Murdoch, Chris? And good afternoon, by the way. And Chris has disappeared and dropped off because, that's how that goes sometimes. We'll get him back and line that up and get rolling with Chris. Just a little technical snafu there. Cool to see the program represented that way. I did not keep great tabs on how Dolak's year went. I mean, I know he went to the Rams as a street free agent and was kind of a story during the preseason, but I don't feel like there was a lot of impact there, but still cool. We know, obviously, Andreessen. It's been a little bit of a linebacker factory they've had going there, at least as far as guys going from, the MAC into the NFL. We've got Chris back now with us. We got disconnected. I was asking you about Red Murdoch. I don't know if you're ready to fire on Red Murdoch, UB linebacker, Chris. Let's try him on a different line. Maybe I don't know what's going on there. Did we lose the ability to have the hotline operational? We'll see if we can't get. We'll try one more time, and then this is going to be back to hockey calls. Is how I'm going to do it. Things I want to cover with Chris. Obviously, he's in Indianapolis and I assume was there for Brandon Beane and Joe Brady talking yesterday. How, by the way, challenging is it to not just say Sean McDermott when you're mentioning the GM and the coach? I don't think I've made the mistake yet, but it does sort of warning signs flash. But I know, talking about the roster defensively, especially, has been pretty interesting so far. And there was, some info on that yesterday. I mean, Brandon Beane took a question about Taron Johnson perhaps switching from slot corner to safety, and the importance of the slot corner in new D coordinator Jim Leonard's system is something that has been talked about, and whether or not Johnson can move back and play from the back end of the defense as opposed to from really the front end of the defense. I heard Joe Marino, who's a weekly visitor from Locked On Bills and a few other different podcasts. But Joe does a great job year-round and is a regular with our morning show guys on Wednesdays. And I heard him today talking about just his concern about Johnson overall, whether he were going to continue to play slot corner or moving him around the board, so to speak. And Joe's not sounding super optimistic from what I heard about their ability to have that transition take place. So I'm curious what anyone else may think about that, and anyone else as we try. This is it. I'm going to click the button. Should I click the button, or are you clicking the button? You're going to click the button. You click the button. Let's see if we've got Chris Trapasso live from Indianapolis. Chris, hello. Are our phones working? I guess that's going to be that then. That's how it goes sometimes. I hope Sal's not going to be on the phone, or anyone else for that matter. Everything was working fine. What did we do? Did I press something? I don't know that I can do. All right, that's how that goes. So no Chris. We apologize for that. I was really looking forward to picking his brain here about what he's seeing and hearing and what kind of clues there might be that are being offered as we get into the combine. The workouts still have not begun. Player interviews, as you heard Red Murdoch talking there. Player interviews have been going on for a couple of days. So, and teams are talking to players. There probably is someone out there keeping track of who has had an official 15-minute visit with the Bills. Like, that is probably out there. I don't have that list compiled myself sitting here right now at 4:38 in the afternoon. But that is what a lot of the combine is about, is the meetings and, the Bills are meeting with the running backs. Ooh, I mean, I don't think they're in the running back market, but sometimes they just sort of like to dot all the I's and cross all the T's. And so just how many players the Bills are going to need on the defense, considering what they have in free agency and that they may actually want to just let leave. I guess Matt Milano would be someone I might consider for that, although I guess on a different contract extension, maybe that's someone you can keep around. But Taron Johnson is someone who's come up big cap number, and if his play is slipping, which I think there is some evidence that it was during the season that just passed, and he's not like a featured player anymore because, McDermott ran a system that really, and this year that started to change a little, or maybe a lot. And I wonder if it was more a philosophically driven decision, or was it performance-based? Did they feel like they weren't getting what they were used to getting out of Taron Johnson in the role and had to pivot to playing more with three linebackers on the field? Either way, I think Johnson is a very interesting piece to think about. That's why my ears kind of really perked up when I heard yesterday that Brandon Beane had been asked about Johnson potentially moving to safety to pair maybe with Cole Bishop, see if that's something. And Beane did not rule it out, but having like sort of thought on it, slept on it, and see the whole context of the question that was asked and Beane's response, it feels more to me like I think Taron Johnson might be someone you just move on from at this point. I'm just not sure that that's a player anymore that I should expect, A, to be able to make a position switch and have that be a success, and B, pull down the salary he's pulling down if he's not going to be on the field for 80%, 90% of the snaps like he mostly was for the majority of his career. And again, that started to change as last season wore on. You saw, more and more them rolling with linebackers instead of having a nickel corner on the field. And I think with Jim Leonard as the D coordinator, I think that puts everything up in the air. So that's a spot that I'm definitely going to be thinking about as this offseason gets rolling here and we get into this draft process. Like, can the Bills, they have mostly, they've been very modest about, I think, I shouldn't say that. A second-round pick is a real investment. That's a big asset, and that's what they used on Cole Bishop. But free agent-wise, they've gone to get guys that are just sort of, they're just guys in the league. Mike Edwards is someone who I would qualify as that. Damar Hamlin, to me, inspirational, great story, but is he a meter-moving player? Absolutely not. And anyone else that they've run through here that had a shot at it just hasn't really taken hold. Taylor Rapp was the only guy, and they targeted him in free agency, but even that was, not like, oh my God, the Bills got Taylor Rapp. It's kind of like, okay, it's a relatively modest signing. And I think the reason I'm thinking about a replacement is I want them to move on from Rapp. I think there is some money to be saved there, and that's not a player that I really, really loved, at least in McDermott's system. I mean, I know they liked him, and they liked his style and his fit. I don't know. I've not really read or heard a lot about what kind of fit he is in Jim Leonard's system, but I'm thinking about someone else there. And I'm wondering if that's a free agent play, like a more significant free agent play, than Taylor Rapp has been, or if that's a high pick and you think you have a plug-and-play opportunity there. It's really interesting because as much as we obsess about receiver here, I think unlike last year or the year where they picked Kyer Elam with their first-round pick, there's not a glaring need at corner anymore. I mean, I'm not saying they won't pick one at some point, but I think you can make a case that receiver, edge, safety, in any order you want. I think you can make a case that any one of those three is the highest priority. You might even want to include linebacker in the conversation because of, again, a new system and Jim Leonard coming in. Any one of those spots, I feel like we're going to have an opportunity to talk about as realistic targets for the Bills come the draft. I just think that there are needs and or holes in each of those spots. I mean, you call this show any day between now and April when the draft comes, and ask me or Mike or anyone who's in here, Brad or Trapasso when he's here, who's the Bills' number one edge rusher? And I mean, we're gonna default. Our default setting is gonna be, it's Gregory Rousseau. Like, he's the holdover. He's got the substantial contract. Like, he's your number one guy. But to me, that's not a guy that is real. He's good player, nice player. Made some impactful plays this year. But he is not. If he's your number one edge rusher, you don't have a number one edge rusher, I think is how I would say it. If he's at the top of your pecking order, you need to find someone or a few someones to supplement what you've got. Because I think you need faster wins. You need more impactful plays. You just need more trouble blocking him than he provides. Again, he's not a player I'm looking to divest myself of, but you could easily tell me the Bills should target an edge rusher in the first round. And I would say the same for safety, and I would absolutely say the same for wide receiver. Linebacker is a little like running back, I feel like, that I might not want to use my first pick on that, but if like the best inside linebacker in the draft somehow falls to number 26, then I think you're going to want to be talking about it. Because there are needs, really like impactful playing opportunity, starter level needs at all those spots, which is wild for a team that is, still thought of as a team in a Super Bowl contending window. They've got a lot of work to do there. All right. We apologize for the mess and the uncomfortable listen while we were trying to figure out if we could get our phones to work with Chris Trapasso. So my apologies on that. Sal Capaccio at the top of the hour, hopefully not on a phone. We'll get that from Indianapolis, so we'll get our fill of that at the top of the hour. Mike is out today along with Zach